Welcome to Nasdaq Trade Talks. I'm your host, Jill Malandrino, Global Markets Reporter at Nasdaq. Joining me at the market site in Times Square, we have Michael Grenagher. He's the co-founder and CEO of Chainalysis, and we're going to take a look at how cryptocurrency can provide better insight into financial crimes. It's great to have you with us at Market Site. Now, that's interesting because U.S. lawmakers are having a little bit of a tough time understanding cryptocurrency, but they're more interested in it more than ever.
Yeah, that's right. And I think one of the reasons why we see that motion today is around what happened with Libra and interest from Facebook and so on. Also, we saw Secretary Mnuchin this week, I think it was, talking about the implications around national security and cryptocurrencies. So there's definitely an interest from those points of view. And I think both of these things are interesting to dive a little bit into. So if you look at, for example, if you look at the aspects around national security issues there, we've seen over the last year that a lot of money have been stolen in crypto, and these several billions have been stolen from crypto exchanges, and these attacks have been nation-state sponsored or sanctioned at least. And that means that now you see states that potentially could use those funds for nuclear programs that stole crypto, and that means that it becomes a national security concern.
And it's interesting because our lawmakers, they are concerned that cryptocurrency will lend to nefarious actions and so forth, but you think that cryptocurrency can actually help with better insight into financial crimes. It's almost like reverse engineering it.
It is. So one of the things that's a core part of how the blockchain works, basically, is that it provides a lot of transparency. So you can look at all the transactions, all of those are public, so you can dive through the different transactions there. What's not public and what's not known is like who did those transactions. And what we do at Chainalysis is that we build basically personas or services, wallets from transaction patterns on the blockchain. And then from those personas, we can say like, oh, these funds were transferred from one exchange to another, or we could say these funds were transferred to a terrorist financing cell or something else. And we have that information from different partnerships and from transactions with different entities.
Right. So, well, it's interesting because when you think of blockchain, when you think of cryptocurrency, decentralization really is the attraction around it. But when you're able to track them and figure out where this nefarious activity is happening, it doesn't sound decentralized as much anymore.
So the activity is super decentralized in the way that all the transactions are kind of validated in a decentralized way. You and I can both like send crypto to each other, and no one can prevent us from doing so. That means that it's a permissionless value transfer network, very much like cash. At the same time, there's a level of transparency. So when I send you, for example, a Bitcoin transfer, then everyone can see that something was being sent. They wouldn't know that I did it or that you received it, but let's assume that we each have an account on an exchange. Then you'll probably see a motion between those two exchanges, and law enforcement will be able to ask these exchanges for information about this transaction that happened today at 2:35.
And that's why I wanted to ask you that question, because that's a great distinction that you made. Yes, we don't need to have a central bank in order for us to transact money, but it still does offer a level of transparency, and you are able to monitor. So it's not like it's a black web out there and people are just transferring assets around for bad purposes. So kind of to wrap up here, now is really the time to educate lawmakers.
Yeah, it's definitely time to educate lawmakers, because I think it's really important for lawmakers to understand that this is a very transparent ecosystem, and there's a lot of things you can do way easier than you can with the traditional finance. You don't need to ask as many different hubs for information as you do in the normal banking world and wait for that latency that it takes to get an answer from a bank. Here you can look at the blockchain and it's open data, and if you have the right tools available, you can basically trace through it. All
right, now, how does Chainalysis fit into this ecosystem? What do you do to help your clients?
So what we do is that we provide different kind of software for compliance, for forensics, investigations. We provide education. We provide different services around that, and we have a good network within government, law enforcement, regulators, and so on, that we can better help the industry to communicate the right way with the regulators.
All right, Michael, thanks so much for the insight, for joining us at Market Site.
Thank you.
And thank you for joining me on Trade Talks. I'm Jill Malandrino, Global Markets Reporter at Nasdaq.